hello everyone. I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tank.
And we're here on the front lines, in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. How's it going, Tank?
Well, everything is coming together. I'm pretty excited. We are finally in the stages where we're recording real information with for the United News channel. Anybody who doesn't know, we've actually launched the new website, so you can go to unitednewschannel.tv, and that's up and running, so that's exciting. And the lifeforce.cc is up and rocking, and we also have the new LifeForce app, which is great. It is every bit a social network, but really a professional network, and groups are pairing off to actually bring people in from all over the world. There's already a few hundred people in there that are coming in, and we're slowly releasing it and expanding that and testing it, and it's pretty exciting, actually. We've got the militias coming in, and we're put them all in different groups, and people are sharing really deep intel and having very positive conversations versus Twitter and Facebook with all the fear porn. And we're able to govern to make sure that if there's any trolls in there, there's ethical guidelines. So that's very exciting. And so that's 2 out of 3. And we do have the UNC app coming out here pretty soon as well. And we also should, in the very near future, have the banking app coming out here before too long. Next few weeks, something like that. So everything's coming together, man. Then we'll be able to fund projects and have it all there. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, that's fantastic, really. I've been perusing the website, the United News Channel.tv, and reading some articles. I was reading one about the Postmaster General. Right? There's a lot of interesting information out there about how important the post office is. As a lot of people just don't even think it's part of the government. Of course, the system that's out there right now that we get the mail by is not the original post office. It's the postal service, right? And so, what is the relation?
It's the same. It's the same system, though. I mean, Kim revived the entire system. They did that in like 1948. So she brought the whole real system back. So whatever it's called, it doesn't matter at this point. It is the post office, and it does work the proper way. I know we're fanatic about words in this world, right? Like, you spell my name with all caps. We say everything a certain way. But at the end of the day, words mean what we make them mean. Universal communication is essential to communication, right? We have to agree things mean what they mean. So if I say the post office, I don't mean I mean the post office, the place where you send letters out. I don't mean some secret cabal factory for harvesting babies or something, So,
yeah. Well, I also picked up on a thread. Actually, let me bring it up for you. It's along the same lines in QAnon. There is often Q is showing us the flag, and it's a particular flag. If you can see this, and people that have looked at this and they say, it's mesmerizing. There's something to this, right? No one's been able to figure out exactly what it is. Why does he keep bringing up this flag? Is it just for patriotism, or is there something else going on? And this guy kind of put it together into a video. And what he's doing is he did all the measurements of this flag and pointed out that it's actually the Title IV flag. Now,
the Title IV flag?
Title IV flag. Now, Title IV, I looked that up right as well. And so I did some research into that. And this is talking about the 4 USC CH1, the flag, from Title IV flag in seal, seat of government. in the States, right? So if you go through this and you start looking at these are the different things that have happened to it. Here's in 2018, there's 2017 amendment. You go all the way back. They don't really have too much bearing on the topic that we're talking about. But if you go down to here, this one, this was the one from 1960s, July 4th, right? Independence Day. So it's an executive order 10798. And what it does, it actually goes through and makes all finds a lot of the definitions and sizes. So here's a chart of the sizes. And if you look at these sizes and you look, there's actually this chart right here. This is the Title IV flag, and all of its dimensions are important. So the ratios between the length and width of the actual side of the flag, the blue, what they call the union, right? That shape also called ratio is all very important to being the flag. And in this little video that the gentleman did, he basically says, well, he brings up something from war castles. Some of the guy that talks about war castles and about this is, forget his whole name, Gould, right? That does the syntax grammar, and he captured the Title IV flag and got the Bushes upset at him and all this kind of stuff. So he relates it. Hey, it's to take you on. It's the Title IV flag, So Qanon must be telling us that Gould is right. Now I don't know if it is or not. Very interesting side of the story. But what is correct is that these dimensions are the Title IV flag. So Qanon is saying this is the Title IV flag. What does it mean beyond that? We can not really know all of it. But I took these dimensions right here. Where's that? There's a chart of them up here. Yeah, this right here. And let me stop sharing. Me share again. This is a little spreadsheet I did. And so I just took all these numbers, right? And all I did was I made a, this is I divided the length by the width, right? And it comes up to this column right here. I did 3-digit extension, and then I brought it down to 2, and then I brought it down to 1. So the number is basically is like 1.9, 1.9, 1.9. The flag on the Qanon is showing us that is 1 to 1.9. That is the ratio that this is showing. I don't know why there's a 1.6 and a 1.3, right? I don't know why these are official, what it means. But in this little video that he did, he said that when Bush did a flag, it was 5:3. That's a different ratio. So when he's going and he's invading Iraq and all this kind of stuff, it's under a flag that is 5:3. It's not the official flag. When Obama did a flag, it was square, which is, he called it a Ken and Barbie flag. I think it was 3x3, 3 foot by 3 foot. When it's hanging down, right, and flopping, you can't tell what the dimensions are. But if you fold it all the way out, he was using a square flag. So,
wow, that's really
yeah, it's
interesting. I just don't know if any of this is relevant. It's like
I know what you mean.
I never sure. It's like I get it. Like that's cool. Like, and if it really mattered, but at the end of the day, it's like you can have all the secrets in the world if people don't respect them and abide by them. They don't mean anything.
Well, that's the secret of their keeping their secrets, right? See, everyone that's in power goes along with what they know as this is what's being presented. This is the legalese. This is the narrative that they are playing with in their culture, right? They have their own culture. I mean, I just read this article, for the United States channel, tank. So, but I would say that worldwide civil war now. So the article I wrote, the name is Worldwide Civil War, Us versus Them. And I go through kind of like what the layout of the story is and how we got into it. So I really only go back to about the Revolutionary War period and kind of really talk about the setting up of the Second Republic. And I go through it rapid fire. I mean, a very short kind of like little word, but it's still a fairly long article, about 7 pages. I go through this legalese kind of stuff is kind of like we're set up to kind of go along with this plan, but we don't know, right? But that's what gives them the permission, right? Our consent, because we volunteered to give consent in all these weird ways, like you sign a traffic ticket. I've consented to be part of this deal with you, right? And we don't.
Shame on us for even acknowledging that. You know, it's like, what? It's like, no, I didn't. You know, like because you, as an infant, you took my footprint and my fingerprints. I didn't consent. I couldn't consent. So therefore, everything after that is bullshit. Like, you have no power over me. As a matter of fact, you're a creep. Why do you take my friend? It's like, why do you think that's okay? You know, like at some point we just have to call their bluff. You know,
it's not for us, right? And I think that's the part of this kind of trap and morass that everyone gets into, because we try to figure out what are they doing to us, right? And we try to figure it out. And because we're trying to figure it out, we kind of step into like how to outmaneuver it, right? Is that, well, oh, okay, they've made a legal structure, so we participate and do it in the right way. We're able to change our standing, be able to use the system for our own benefit, all this kind of stuff. But the reality is, this is done for them, for their own little subculture, right? For them to give themselves permission to do all those horrible things.
Right. They can justify it later by saying, well, we made a law that says the flag is folded 3 times with a triangle, then that means that I own your liver. I mean, whatever ridiculous law that they made. And then when you challenge them on it, they say, whoa, look, it's written right here. And as long as it's written down, well, for the most part, we'd be like, oh man, I didn't know that, right? And because someone presents themselves as the expert, we basically go along with it, right? That just was what just happened with the Bar Association here in New York, right? The Bar Association comes together. They're going to decide whether or not there should be a mandatory COVID-19 vaccine. Now, here's my question. 1, since when does the bar have any control over jurisdiction in New York State or any place else in the United States? They don't. Number 2, are they a board of medical experts as well as lawyers? No. So basically what they're doing is they're trying to figure out, can we get away with this legally, forcing everyone to take the vaccine, right? And the reality is we called the bluff on it, right? We were like, no, you cannot, right? Because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And if you're going to do that, you have to present to us all of your evidence to even prove that COVID-19 is a legitimate threat. Show us all the legitimate reasons why people died. Show us how someone went from a motorcycle accident and died from COVID-19. Like, are you sure it wasn't like, their intestines bleeding out on the floor? Are you sure that wasn't the reason? I mean,
and they also have to show the counter evidence, not just their pro evidence. They have to show the counter evidence. For example, a very new study that just came out from England yesterday, how many people died from the lockdown exceeded how many people died from the virus.
Wow. Specific to any particular cause, or what do they say?
I've got to get it. I just heard about it, but they just heard about it last night. So I'm gonna research it. But that was the subject. They said that's the new information. It exceeded the amount of people that actually died.
Well,
more
I will say the coronavirus apparently it's the cure for sudden infant death syndrome, because zero cases of SIDS commonly caused sudden infant death syndrome, right? I wonder why. It must be that corona cures that, right? Corona also apparently reduces cardiovascular disease by 87%. I mean, wow. It's incredible. That's amazing. Who saw that one coming, right? all these different like issues. It's like, well, maybe the problem and the reason why people are so sick is the hospitals. You know, apparently they're just a death machine because you go in and it's like, okay, we're gonna put you on a ventilator. It's like, wait, I need an inhaler. You know, it's like, get your priorities straight. But wait, okay, so let's talk about this now. Now
Okay.
the real agenda is on the table now. We now know it's no longer speculation. This is a fact. Bill Gates, he's not kidding. He actually means depopulation. What evidence do we have? Now we have real scientific evidence now, right? So you have, the first thing is AstraZeneca. They come out and they say, great news. The new COVID-19 vaccine has finished the trials and it is amazing. It does a double, provides two kinds of immunity. Wow. I'm not even sure what two things they're talking about, right? So, but then the same day, GlaxoSmithKline, who partners with them, had a whistleblower come out and said, okay, now in the first trial, there's an adjuvant used. They love adjuvants, right? They love adjuvants, right? So they take this adjuvant, right? And the adjuvant's supposed to aggravate the immune system to force your body to adjust, right? So
Aggravant.
What?
Aggravant.
Aggravants, yeah.
Okay. Aggravant.
Yeah, adjuvant. All right. So here's what happens, right? So in this one adjuvant, they test 63 women, right? 61 of those women are now infertile. They can't have children. So when they say it's a big success, the first thing we know is that they value success based on, hey, it was able to stop women from reproducing. Great news. Now stop having babies, right? So there's the first one. Now the second one was the men, right? Because they had to make it special for the men. The men, what happened with them was that it actually shrunk the testicle size, right? And then it attacked the mitochondria inside of the semen and kills it. And so the semen would stay alive without the mitochondria, right? The powerhouse of the cell, the core basically of, the way that life would rejuvenate, right? So if that man were to have sex with a woman who was not vaccinated, he would actually make her infertile as well. Now, so they've weaponized semen. It's amazing. I mean, like, it already wasn't hard enough for guys to, find the right girl. Now they have the potential risk of, like, hey, my semen's deadly. Like who knew, right? I mean, this is the most horrendous thing. Now, and then they went a step further. They said, now look, this won't really show up for 7 years. So remember, the claim to fame by all these globalists, CDC and the WHO, they say nothing will return to normal until most of the population is vaccinated. Nothing. Now, you're talking about a virus that is about a third as deadly as the flu. The actual death toll, and they're not even accurate. We know the death tolls are false. We know the numbers are false. It's everywhere. But it's about a third as dangerous as the flu, which makes it slightly more dangerous than the common cold, right? Slightly. Like, just barely. Like, matter of fact, it might make it less. I'm not exactly sure, but not much, right? So you've closed down, you've done an economic assassination on the entire world. You've scared people out of their minds. You've filled them with more ignorance. And even when the science comes out, people will ignore it because they're like, I know somebody who died from this, right? And that's what will happen. So now they're going to force vaccinate the entire adult population. And in 7 years, what will happen is about 7 years, people will still be dying, but they won't be having more kids. So now think about it. How long does that last? Now there's a movie about this.
I thought that the vaccination actually was actually killing more people than COVID was. It was up somewhere around 10% of the people who had received it will catch it and then die.
I don't know. I didn't know it was in practice, to be honest. I didn't know. I know there's that one clip where, like,
there's a study. They've already had the trials of like 45 people, and they were bumping it up to the next level, which is thousands of people to test.
Well, RFK wrote an article about this a while back, and Andrea on the assembly was telling me about it today, saying basically that that our T cells are significantly more impactful on this virus and many other things than the vaccines. So what are we doing? You basically you're injecting this into the body, and you're going to have an outbreak in your body. It's just going to cause more sickness. So, at this point, it's pretty obvious.
You have to put the virus in the vaccine, right? That's the whole point of a virus, right? Is it putting a dead virus in the vaccine, right? That's what makes a vaccine. You take the virus,
right?
You mutilate it in some way to kill it or whatever. They make it not reproducible. But you put it in your body so the body can build their immunity to it because it sees it and says, oh, this is something we should take care of. And that's what the immunity is supposed to be coming from, right? But now you're agitating the immunity, your immune system, right, to get them to respond. But it's responding to what? Sickle cell, cancer, all these other things. What about the virus? That you're supposed to be agitating about. So this whole system is obviously meant to do. There's a lie behind it, right? That why do they need all these other adjutants in it? Isn't the virus itself the adjutant? Isn't this what you should be worried about? Have the body react to? Isn't that the thing that they should be focused on? But they're bringing all these other things into it. So there's some reason that they're doing this, and they're putting these other chemicals, open the blood-brain barrier, so it gets it into the brain, bringing the aluminum into the brain to dumb people down, right? So they take the next vaccination.
And then the other, he also mentioned in this report that that there was another cancer-causing agent in there as well, right? Because it's not a vaccine unless you try to give people cancer. Let's face it, right? Because cancer is a major industry. So this is just a good economic move if you're, in the business of like the evil empire, right?
Right.
Right. That makes sense. No.
The one thing because we know their religion is a satanic Luciferian. It is an ancient Baal worshiping categories of religions, right? That they've done these what we call pagan religions or Luciferians. But one of the things that I caught, and I brought this up in another video that we talked about, was Trey Smith did a video that called it Pandemic. P-A-N, meaning the god Pan, which is the same as the devil and all this. Pan is always a goat's head, that kind of thing. So, but they used to have these whole big ceremonies in which they'd make literally a witch's brew with all of these adjutants that they have everybody put inside them. And what it means is to put the devil inside you. Pandemic means put the devil inside you. It's part of their ritual. So what they're trying to do to the whole world is put the devil inside them. Right? So this right, which is bat's blood. They'll have bats coming into this, right? And animal blood, fetuses, all the stuff that I don't know, eye of newt, wart of a toad. I don't. What else you put in? Which is
did you see the pandemic quarters?
No.
Like it's a bat, of course. I'm like, they're just making fun of us. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit out there.
Why would your quarter be like George Washington or a bat that caused the virus that allegedly killed all these people, right?
So I got something else to kind of go over. Let me just share something else with you. We'll take a little detour here.
Yeah.
This is Benjamin Fulford's site, okay? And this is an article. When was it? I guess it must be fairly recent. But anyway, it's talking about the huge victory for humanity as the Khazarian Mafia's long planned 666 revolution fizzles. Right? Sounds intriguing, right? So it's talking about really this date of June 6th, I guess maybe the sixth hour, that they would, create this civil war within America, based around the Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all this stuff, but it got fizzled, right? It got stopped, right? And so I'm reading through this, and it's a pretty interesting little article, and I'm going along with this. It says like, and this is like something that was said by George Soros, who says, "I'm going to bring down the United States by funding black hate groups. We'll put them into a mental trap and make them blame white people. The black community is easiest to manipulate." Now, this is supposedly a quote, right?
It is a quote, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're this sort of this all disappears. So I'm going through this, and now this guy is really showing this is downtown New York, right? And it's a ghost town. Let's push play there for a little bit. Yeah.
Check it out. Bob Wire. The media's all here. Look at the media. Look at the security. Security standing outside, 10 guys. Look at this. Puma, done. Look. Everything gone. Welcome to Manhattan. Guy just went through the red light. Look at that. Boom. Nobody cares.
Just go through the red road. All right. So anyway, I was reading through this, right? And it was all pretty interesting. And then I get to this. And it says, for those who still think U.S. President Donald Trump is responsible for the rescue of the Republic of the United States of America, please remember that as a businessman, he was bailed out by the Rothschilds each time he went bankrupt. This is a matter of public record. Also, his son-in-law is the satanic 666 Fifth Avenue Jared Kushner, who's been trying to mark the beast, microchip everybody. Please check the facts. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't get bailed out by the Rothschilds, but who else would bail him out, right? It has to be the bank. There is no one else, right? And I'm not saying Jared Kushner, is not trying to microchip everybody. I don't know if he is. I don't know. But what I do know is that QAnon was talking about that, before the election, you're going to see a lot of the people flip on Trump.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They're going to basically just make a 180 and try to bring people away from Trump. So they've gathered their audience, they're holding them tight in the mental trap, right? And then they basically say, okay, we're going to follow along with it. So I think that, Benjamin Fulford, I've always enjoyed his reports, but is he also now either, being manipulated, or is he part of the system, right? Is he in the Rothschild court or the Black Sun court? I don't know.
He's. You don't have 20 different sources inside the cabal, and then you're not part of it. Like, they've manipulated him, given him bad intel over and over again. Like, he's married to somebody who's like Japanese bloodline. He does basically what he's told. Benjamin Fulford puts out the report that they want out. Yeah. It's been that way for a long time. So, that's why it's and everybody's teaching from a different side, right? So he's on the meritocracy side, right? So this is actually mentioned on the Georgia Guidestones.
Right.
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 Is that
I've heard him talk about the meritocracy. When you first hear about communism, right? As a young person, right? I remember I was in high school. I learned about communism and this, and I said, okay, yeah, I get why it sounds like it's a cool idea, right? That you want everyone is equal, everyone gets the same, all this and that. But there's something else behind that, something else a little bit more where it doesn't hold up when you actually try to put it into practice because of other things that they leave out of the equation, right? Which is greed. It's a utopian view that can never come about because it ignores the other half, or it's really the other half, the bad side of things. Communism sounds good, or socialism sounds good for someone who hasn't had much life experience, right? And when you start doing a business, right, you know immediately, and I've been in business as far as I know my whole life, and from the time I'm in kindergarten, and selling candy from my little drawer. I see it so vividly, selling candy to my little friends and being busted by the teacher, and then having to do it on the side and secretly. But doing this, and being in business and paying people to participate in the business, and that you get a different perspective on things, right? And when you're the one that's responsible for making sure everyone gets paid, and you pay yourself last, right? You have a completely different view of how people come into work on something. People that don't do business, that don't understand I've started seeing the entitlement creep into the people I was hiring. Entitled to this, entitled to that, entitled to. I said, why are you entitled? I don't get that. So I guess merit is a very good thing by itself to reward merit. But you individually have to decide what has merit for your business, right? If you put it into a government structure, you then have to elect people, right, that are now going to determine what has merit. Well, you can see how well this has worked out so far from our elected leaders. They're in it for themselves. Their bank account is growing. So what has merit to them is what grows their bank accounts.
Well, I mean, think about it. You can literally, we all know this, if you have enough money, you can get away with anything. So basically, if you're wealthy enough, the lesson we've taught our children and everyone else is, well, you have money, so you can just buy your way out. So there is no morality once you get to a certain level of rich, basically, right?
Which is, when I spend a lot of time in China, and I would have these conversations with my Chinese friends, right? And I love them. They're great. They're like everyone else in the world that I've met, right? They want to do best for their children, and they want to, do good things, right? They're in a system that is communist, and there's an angle to that. So okay, but they've lost morality, and they did it by way of eliminating religion, spirituality, right? There can only be one God in this, and which is the leader of the Communist Party, right? So by eliminating morality, what they replaced it with was loyalty. I don't know if much people talk about this, but it's what I've noticed, right? So, and you're loyal to your group, and then the line within the group, meaning it's almost like a network marketing company. It's the guy who brought you in, right?
Wow, yeah.
Right? Yeah, so you have to go to your sponsor, and he goes to his sponsor, he goes to his sponsor. Now that's the group, right? So you're loyal to that line, you're loyal to that group. Anyone outside of that, you could do whatever immoral thing to them, steal from them, whatever. You can do whatever.
Sure.
You're within that is acceptable. So that's what is replaced. Is in my opinion,
they're goyim, right? You can do whatever you want to the goyim.
Same idea, right? In a religious context, it's the goyim that you can do anything to, right? It's the infidels.
Right, exactly.
Do anything to. It's a very interesting that it's the same dynamic, right? Played out through this lack of spirituality, through this lack of moral, meaning that you're responsible for everybody, not just your group, not just the people in your line. You you have to basically, only follow that. Anyone outside that group is then not it. So if you look at it from Chinese point of view now, anyone that's not Chinese, you can do anything to. You can infect them with a virus. You can sell them the personal protection equipment at 10 times the cost that you just bought it up around the world.
Right. You're the chosen people. Right.
Yeah. Because now that's your group, right? So that's your loyalty. No morality, just loyalty. So who are you loyal to? So in these, when I'm doing some sort of business, now I've had not just the GCR stuff that I did for those few years in there. I had previous experience doing an import business, bringing stuff in from China or Taiwan. And even that was a different experience between that two different cultures of China and Taiwan. I got to the point that says, I don't want to do another business where I'm dealing with China.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I would be screwed over.
Yeah.
Twice in a row. I built the business. It was going good. And they literally ramped up the price, not raising the price 5% on an item or 10% or even 20 or 30 or 50%, but tripling it, and then 5 times the cost on items after building the market.
Right. That's so shiesty.
What that does is it means that you can't make your sales anymore, right? You can't make any money doing it, so you stop. But the market's been built up. And who is going to sell to them? They're going to sell to them directly. Because you went out and built up the market for it.
Yeah, so frustrating.
And these things that I was dealing with were something that one was a very niche market. It was for people that wanted to build their own sand rails or choppers or motorcycles and things like that, because it was for metalworking. It was a way of cutting metal steel, like chrome steel, like butter, with no giant sparks flying off of the circular saw, all that kind of stuff. It was called a cold cut saw. It used a cooling liquid over the blade, and it would allow you to go with a high torque motor, but very low RPMs, and it would just kind of like slide right through the material and cut very quickly. And so that was the market. But the only suppliers of these particular saws were in the aerospace industry, and they would sell them for $20,000 or $40,000. It's just a saw with liquid and a pumping liquid. It's not.
That's amazing.
Right?
It's like a wet saw, but like cold fusion kind of. It's amazing.
Yeah, so we just had this cooling liquid that would go over it. Actually, we got a little creative. We put some fluorescent color in it so it actually would glow in the dark. That's
awesome.
Yeah, so we were having, it's a fun business, right? We're building sand rails and dune buggies, in other words. People don't know the name sand rail.
That is awesome. That's a great business.
We ended up importing the actual dune buggies from China later, right? We kind of transitioned into doing that because that business went away, right? So we do this another business where now we even looked at actually being an importer of Chinese vehicles into California, right? Because they were low cost, like $3,000,
right,
$3,000, $5,000, you get a car. No, it's made in China. Not going to last long. But anyway, I'm sorry. So my experience with dealing with China and Taiwan was different. So Taiwan, we designed circuit, these particular they called them SCRs, silicon controlled rectifiers. It was a microprocessor controller for power. So we would manipulate the power that was coming in, put out a particular frequency, voltage, and amperage, and we would be able to adapt that on the fly, right? So change it. So, for example, you had a Twinkie manufacturing machine, right? You can't plug it into a 110 outlet. right? It has certain power requirements. It needs to ramp up, and at certain times it needs to put out more power and pull back and change the things for the betterment of the machine, right? To function properly, they need this controller. So we designed a system of controllers. I'm sorry, I'm getting off a little track here, but
No, it's good, man. It's good. It's really interesting. Go ahead.
right, we would be able to have really large heat sinks, right? Because a lot of this required a lot of heat, and we would have these certain boxes with a heat sink. And depending on what kind of components we put into our boards back then, we designed it so that we had basically just 5 boards, right, that we could stick in the machines in different segments. Like we put this board and this board, or this board and this board, or this board and this board, of those 5, and that would completely change the configuration of what we were putting out, and which gave us 100 possibilities, well, more than that, but we gave 100 product lines, right, that would basically put out there. Then people would buy them, right? So the Twinkie manufacturer or the helicopter manufacturer, they need to be able to control power, so they would get the one that suited them. And it was easy for us because we get all the boards made in Taiwan, right? We had printed up all the circuit boards, right? Brought them to America, and we would assemble it, made in America, for what was go out the door. So we never had a problem in that business dealing with Taiwan. We never had a problem with them changing the prices on us. I mean, there were some minor changes in prices and things like that. So we could build business that way. You can't build a business if they're going to pull it out from underneath you, right? I think the second time around when we did that with China, I remember they had called us, after like 6 months, we stopped the whole thing, right? We just shut it all down, right? Because we just couldn't compete. They called us again, and they wanted us to start buying, and they said, oh, we'll sell it to you at this price, back to almost as low as it was in the very beginning. We said, no, you got to be kidding. Right?
Yeah, you've already established who you are as a business.
Right. How can you, call us back and ask us to buy again from you, right? And that you wouldn't do exactly the same thing as again, right? And I said, well, we said, I'll tell you what, why don't you pay us all the lost money that we lost in doing this, and we'll talk to you about it, right? You put out the money. You pay us to go and build the business up again. That's what we said. We built it up for free, and you took it away, and then you couldn't handle it, so now you're calling us back again. So now you pay us. No, they didn't pay us.
No, never money up front. No. Well, it's funny. I remember like when everything was happening with the Chinese elders, I was really like trying to understand the cultural differences, and I was like, you have no honor in the way you do business, right? But then I learned later, it's like, well, it's because I'm not, like, we don't matter, right? That wasn't just the Chinese. I'm not sure. It's really the cabal.
Right.
This whole, anybody who owns a business is part of the dragon families. It's, and they control everything in China. The same way they do here. It just wouldn't be as obvious, like here we'd say the mob, but it's the same dragon family. Yeah, just a different side of the same family, right?
Yeah, I think it's the one name that we can rely on in naming them is mafia. I mean, it means
it's right.
Everyone, it kind of sums up that they have no honor with us, but amongst themselves, there's honor amongst thieves. They have their own code, right, that they go by, and it actually is tied together with religion, their own. Is to guide together within their own governance that they have, which is their own ideals and their own feelings between. If feelings is the right word, between themselves, right? They treat each other on the same basis, but that is completely different than they treat the rest of the people who are not on the in with them, right?
Well, it's like etiquette. Right, etiquette's a big deal, like political correctness. You can do anything as long as you discuss it in a way that is dignified, right? So like even, you know, like there's some pretty notorious interviews out there with, you know, the Illuminati, right? And like the Illuminati character will say, I will answer your questions if I want to, right? And speaking down to them, and if you are disrespectful in any way, the interview's over, right? That's how they'll talk to them. So talk down to them like we're slaves, right?
Yeah.
So if I go to ask you a question, I'm asking as a slave, right? So I'm like, you know, yes, master, right? It's kind of the way they want you to address them, you know.
Yes, massive.
Yeah, I mean it's, you know, so that's the kind of mentality. So the more this plays out, and the more you see it, right? You know, once we get away from, you know, commonly over exaggerated stereotypes that are everywhere, the reality is we were all enslaved. Because for the most part, even when we became the boss, a lot of people, when we became a boss, a lot of people, when they became bosses, they were just like their boss, which was, you know, not, it wasn't really a relationship you wanted, right? You have to do this, you have to be in this place at this time. And now there's certain standards you would have naturally in any business, right? In any job. But if you're working at something you love, you're going to do those things anyways. You know, you're just going to find a way to get them done. And like, there's expectations as an employee, but like the way our system has worked, it's like the boss would make 100 times as much as the employees, you know? Now that's where it gets like so far out of control. Like I just read this thing about how Nike makes their sneakers in China, paying these underage girls 20 cents an hour so that Colin Kaepernick can, you know, rail against the United States for oppression, you know, for not treating black people right.
Yeah.
Right. Making, you know, $30 million a year.
Listen, I've got another perspective to that. You know, I've got from the people who are in these poorer countries, right, that don't have any jobs, and that 20 cents an hour means their family eats. For them, when they lose those jobs because of politics, it hurts them. So I don't say that it's correct, right, or the righteous way to look at a way of doing business, you know, to send into these poorer countries. But here in the Philippines, it's still there is a political system here, a contractual system where people get to eat. Now, I think it's actually the problem of keeping people poor too. It's like the minimum wage in America is also the maximum wage in America, right? You don't get paid more than that, right? You're not based upon your merit, right? It's not based upon whether you deserve more or not, right? It is a system put in place. So I don't want to deny anyone a job because that's the way it is in those countries, because then they elevate. You know, look what happened in India, right? They were able to transition to where everyone, you know, 2/3 of their people are now in the middle class category from having no middle class. That's, you know, we're talking like, you know, 600 million people now become middle class, and they're on their way, the last 300 million of them, to make them, you know, out of poverty, right? And they'll be successful, right? But along the way, there's people getting paid 20 cents an hour in that. So you have one system which they're never going to get paid more, right? You know, China. We're in the communist system, right? Because it's always lowest common denominator. Everyone will all get paid except for the very elite, right?
Right.
In countries like India, they had communism. I happened to be able to see it transition out of communism. When I first started going there, I was 22 years old. I got to see and read all the newspapers and see how the communism was being pulled back, right, to where they became capitalism. I don't even know if they ever, fully just renounced communism and said, okay, we've got a new constitution, or they just kind of like went along and just morphed out of it. I don't know that part, but it was very interesting to see how always in the street, everyone had their own little business. Capitalism was live and thriving there, right? But that was true capitalism in the streets, right? The people that would barter in the bazaars, right, in the marketplaces. That was true capitalism. It's not what is in America. That's social capitalism, social
franchise. Yeah.
Well, I mean, franchise. I think really the too big to fail concept, right? You can't the government come in and bail out a business. The business didn't function well, right? So why should it be bailed out? Same with the banks. They're not making money. Oh, maybe
I would say that all of these systems, we have to really look at them and say they're all broken, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is none of these are actually good systems, right? They're all designed so that you have no room to fail. Even as India had to transition out of communism, essentially they turned into an all cash society. So really now they're all basically, they have to commit some criminal act, basically, right, to evade paying taxes. Right? So, it's like they only claim a very small portion of their income. Right? So it's like, how could that possibly be the best way in the society? Whereas when, the British went in to India, and like they first went there, they're like, these people are in all ways thriving. They lived in a society of abundance, both spiritually, physically, right? They had everything they needed. They were, it was a yogi dominated culture, right? They were healthy. They were strong. I mean, everything about them was, they had no need. They were like in that movie Avatar, right? Like they were completely abundant. So the British were like, so clearly what we need to do is civilize them. So we think civilize is like, the savages who, they need to learn about, soda. Like we need to make sure that they understand our way of life. But in reality, it's like their own way of life was so much better. It was such a higher quality. It was so well developed. They didn't need that. So they sever the spiritual connections and they introduce new hedonistic pleasures and whatever else, and seduce a group of them, and suddenly that becomes the new way.
Right. Take everyone off on a different direction than is most healthy for the society. Like I like listening to Jimmy Dore, right? His now he's a socialist, right? And he's a leftist, right? He's a progressive. I guess is the term he likes to probably use. And I like listening to him because he's honest, right? He's honest about what's happening. I mean, he's not going to vote for Trump, but it's almost like, he says, look what the good thing that Trump is saying, right? Look, you made Trump look like a good guy, right? So stuff like that, right? because of all the stuff that the Democrats are doing. And so the Democrats are really bad, right? So he's supporting, the idea of more of like a strike, and to lift everyone up and follow the path of the and the Workers' Party, right? But the sentiment behind what he wants to do is correct, right? He wants everybody to have health care, right? But in the system that as it exists, it can't create a healthcare system that would be for the benefit of all people. It would create a healthcare system that would keep everyone on life support until it wasn't financially viable for them to be on life support anymore, and then knock them off. It's because of the system itself. It's not his ideals and the method in which he'd want to go about it. I think it would get us in the wrong direction. But it's okay to think, how do we get everybody covered? Right.
Even that I don't agree with. The whole model of healthcare is broken. If you actually care about people's health, then teach them how their body works. Teach them how to give them a proper food pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Show them what's healthy for them, and then on top of that, don't fill their water full of fluoride, fill their food full of GMOs,
Sure.
make nutrients illegal. You know, there's a whole movement to ban all these supplements. I mean, they've been doing this for years. You know, like B17 is a known cure for cancer. It's been illegal in the United States because, you know, it mixes in the body to basically create a binding arsenic, right? That basically it only attaches to the cancer, and then it breaks up naturally in the body, right? But they say, oh no, it causes arsenic, and arsenic is poison. But yet you're going to put fluoride that, you know, in everything. It's just crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Or like,
what we have to do is we have to look at the whole system, right, and build one that doesn't do that. And the problem is that it's the money system, the debt-based usury system, right, that is created, is what is the problem, right? And we have to eliminate that. We have to basically put something in place that allows for abundance. If everyone had money, then people could have pay their doctor. We wouldn't even need insurance, right? You wouldn't need insurance. You just go and pay your doctor. There's insurance here in the Philippines, but I described this before. You know, I had helped someone who needed to have like an MRI and blood work and all this kind of stuff. You know, we walked in off the street in the same day, went through the whole process, see a couple of different doctor specialists, have the MRI, have the blood work done. The whole thing at the end of the day was less than $300, right? And and her treatment at the end of the line. The most expensive MRI in the world at that time as well. It wasn't some low budget item. No, it was the most expensive one. And it was a pleasant experience, right? Even though there were some lines we had to wait in, they weren't too long. You know, you're waiting 20 minutes and you get to there was no problem. But the system is where where you're tied into this, where everyone doesn't have enough. It's debt-based. The way that a debt-based system works is it makes sure that everybody's in debt, number one. Number two, the money is scarce.
Yeah.
It's so scarce, that's why there's value to it.
Well, you know, it's amazing because we're in a unique situation now, right? Money is it's just a symbol that we use. We agree to trade with it, right? But it's because the way it should work is like, you know, certain areas of the country or the world, it's like, well, they have a certain product that, you know, they specialize in, like olive oil, you know, in Italy or something, right? It's like, so they're masters of making olive oil, right? So you think, well, as long as I know I'm going to get the best quality olive oil, you know, I'm willing to give you our, you know, exclusive pineapples, right? And now we're trading, right? And that's really what it's all about, is just trade, right? So if we just started building communities around what comes natural, you know, in those communities, right? Where, I mean, I've thought about this, where, you know, we could have a very abundant community, have all the, you know, mainstream, you know, luxuries that we're used to. And to be honest, if we just price them fairly, it wouldn't even be like because think about it, your big luxury items like a car, a house. I mean, you don't buy these things all the time, right? Then everything else you just price reasonably, or you find better ways to do it. You know,
just like you pick out these things that are in this system, things that become normalized, that they like a car, right? They start laying them out to where they get fairly expensive, right? Everyone has to have one. The price goes up. Well, a cell phone. How much is a cell phone, right? Well, the ones you want to get, they're all $1,000, right? Now, that same cell phone, I guarantee you, say like a top Apple phone, is being sold for $40 out the back door to the mass market of the poor country. So what's the cost? right? The cost of these items, it's really just a way of taking money from people. Now, is that a fair cost because it's $1,000? It starts to, it's driving, but they're making so much money, so people start thinking that that's not fair. Now, I don't blame the system for someone in the system for charging that, because that's how the system functions, right? You got to play that game. You got to be in that vibration for you to succeed in that system. So it's the system that says the problem. So there should be if you eliminated a lot of these things about debt, the prices of things would come down. The debt-based money is the problem. We haven't
Yes, I agree.
money where there's no interest charged anywhere and no taxes collected from people for their income. I mean, it's fine if you want to, if there's like a sales tax, okay, great. There's reason, but I can see a reason, even in this current scenario, where I think that Trump is setting up things to where all of Wall Street, all the debt is all being purchased by these special purpose vehicles under the Treasury, and the Fed is being forced to open their checkbook for anything that the SPVs need. They buy it. It's just a big vacuum cleaner sucking up all the debt. Well, that also means they're sucking up asset, right? Because they're pulling in from the Fed, right? This money it's supposed to pay back to the Fed, but it's being lent to them by way of the Treasury. The Treasury is in the first loss position. So if they go bankrupt or the Fed goes bankrupt, still the Treasury is going to own the asset. That's how it's being set up. So they're now, and I came up with this idea. I don't know if it's true or not. This is completely just a thought. That since the Fed no longer is in the repo market, meaning the overnight lending to banks to keep them still fluid, right? They're out of that for now, over a week? So 10 days, they're no longer buying, putting this money out at loan to the banks overnight at some 10% rate. It's the loan shark rate. So they're out of that. So they have to get that money from somewhere. The bank goes out of business. I bet this is going to be an SPV, specifically just to go ahead and overnight lend this money to the banks. So they'll start now owning more of the debt of the bank, which also then ends up meaning they own the bank. So I think this is a part of this grab that's going on around the world. The cabal was set to grab all of the stocks, right? Set up everything. China has gone around and bought up 30% of everything around the world, every company and everything. They own stocks up to 30%, so they don't end up getting into any of the regulatory issues because they only bought 30% of a company. So, so now there's something that's happening right now where they're buying up all of this now. So if they're also buying up, or basically putting out lending money in the repo market, they will now repossess the banks. Repo doesn't mean repossess, but in this context, I think that might be what's going on here. It's just my idea of just trying to connect the dots. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems like that. Where else are they going to get the money, or they go out of business? Right? If the bank can't come up with the money to close their books for the day at 2 a.m. or whatever, they're dead. So they have to get the money. Where's it going to come from? Well, it looks like it's still going to be the Fed, but it's going to be by way of these SPVs. And this is basically a power grab. Around the world, this is what's going on right now. The whole world is in turmoil. Shut down all the businesses, right? And now everyone's grabbing the chips from the table. Game's over. Grab your chips.
Right.
And where everyone's going to settle. That's what's happening right now. We can see it. So.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, you got Nancy Pelosi talking about her COG meeting, the continuation of governance, right? Yes. And she's boasting about how Trump's going to be out of office, whether he knows it or not.
Didn't she say that last time? No, he'll never be president. He'll never sit there.
Yeah, she talks a lot.
Yeah, well, so I think this is obviously that they're going to plan to take him out, put her in.
Well,
notice she said that,
I think they're trying to win favor with the military, because the military is all embarrassed because they're all counting on the RV.
right.
So
There's a new RV. Well, sorry to use the word, but there's a new game in town, right? And it's for the betterment of the world. It's not satanic insanity, right?
right. Well, there is something to be said about us revaluing our own personal worth, right? There's something about that that's important. Is that if we just realized how valuable we really are,
That we have the power.
yeah, it's like in that sense, there is revaluation, right? So I don't know. I'm very hopeful. I think things are going our way. I'm very excited. I will say, this is great news. According to the White House, they've launched an investigation into Cuomo because of the article that we wrote on the United News Channel. So, not even a week old, I think 4 days old, and we're already having an impact. So that's good.
Well, I think that he can be brought up on murder charges. What he did was murder.
Without question, it's genocide. It is. I mean, not just the elderly population, who he admitted he made a mistake. Then the next week came out and said, well, they were going to die anyways. Isn't that amazing? How could you even say that?
Yeah. Nipples Cuomo. His compassion.
Nipples. Cuomo homosexuals. He's got a whole fan club. And it's amazing. There's a last week, Chief Moynihan, who was like the senior ranking officer in NYPD up in the Bronx, they were doing a prayer. He was with the Haitian community, which is predominantly black, I think there's also some Puerto Rican churches there as well. And they're down by City Hall, and they're doing like a prayer gathering, right? And you also have Black Lives Matter that's camped out down there. And they're pretending to be all frail and whatever, right? And then, like, the general in that group, he, like, ordered an attack, and they jumped the barrier and beat the hell out of the cops. And Chief Moynihan got all roughed up. De Blasio has basically said you cannot use handcuffs anymore, so you can't even detain them. So the New York State troopers, they all pulled out. And then basically Chief Moynihan, I mean, this is the chief of the police, right? Gets beat up badly, right? Badly beat up. And the guy goes to jail, comes out the next day, no bail. Because Black Lives Matter, but apparently Chief Moynihan's doesn't. Yeah. That's the sad reality of what they're trying to do. Now, my theory on this is that because you have this Black Lives Matter directly associated with some of the Islamic jihadist groups, right? And they were actually volunteering with the auxiliary police up in the Bronx. And while they were up there, they started imposing Sharia law. So, like, it was summertime. There were people outside the bar drinking. They were telling people they had to go in. They gave people a curfew. If a woman's dress was too short, they told her she had to go back in the house. Things like that. So it's like, so you can see how de Blasio has basically said Black Lives Matter, they have the right to do whatever they want. But everybody else, they have to stay home because the coronavirus is so deadly. So either the coronavirus isn't that deadly, or he doesn't care about Black lives. But it can't be both.
What I find interesting is, like, de Blasio, which is a horrible name for him to choose for himself, right? Not his real name. So his real name is shown up. He's a Marxist, right? Out and out Marxist. So why does he have to play this role? right? Why do they put people in the role play these play acting roles to do a certain thing, and they're all interconnected. Even Trudeau in Canada, right? It's not his real
Oh yeah,
name. He's
Trudeau is.
Castro or something. Someone said this. I picked up.
Yeah. I think he is. He's like the bastard son of Fidel Castro.
Yeah. So it's like, there's something going on here, right? The Marxists and communists are all in the power positions. They change their name, right? So Khazarian Mafia, right? That's their national destination. They change what they're like, and they're now all doing what they're doing. They're pushing to create a communist system where China would have been in the center, right? And these little kingdoms that they would have, little fiefdoms of like Cuomo would be over, Northeast America. I don't know who would be over the South. But maybe Michigan and New York go to battle because, that's what dictators do, right? So I want that territory. I want that territory.
Yeah, something like that.
And I'd be more afraid of Whitmer than Cuomo.
So my thought is, it'll be very exciting to see what happens as the United News Channel starts to catch on. We start to put out real news on a consistent basis. And when people have real information, will they accept it? Because you have to have some kind of shock value right now, in my opinion. You got a shock because you can't normalize this stuff anymore. You can't make it okay. So there has to be some level of shock. Yeah. They should disgust people. They should infuriate people, right? So I guess we'll see, man. But anyways, man, that's all I got for today.
Sounds good. Yeah, it was a good day. Got a lot of info, and we have a lot of good things happening. So we're come back and maybe I'll get that article up, and then I'll do some short videos about it. I was thinking about that might be a good way of going because it's a little bit long. Maybe break it up into 5 little segments and talk about it on a broadcast. Yeah,
that's a good idea. I like that. Everybody go to lifeforce.cc. The new app is available there for Android and for iPhone. And go to unitednewschannel.tv and check those out. Up and coming. Dan, thank you as always. Appreciate all you do. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, everybody. There'll be a commercial coming up right here. Pay attention. I'm going to try and get this the auction going. So participation helps everything move along. So I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Join us in building our new path forward. Go to goldgraincoin.com and you can get your grains. Each grain is equal to 1 grain of gold. It's just like having gold on your cell phone. You can also participate in our Grains.bid auction site, where you can win grains at auction. It's an exciting way to get grains. You can win at up to 98% off. It's pretty easy. Just click the bid button. A few seconds will be added to the timer, and the price will increase by 1 penny. In the end, the highest bidder wins. Just pay the auction price and take your grains. It's pretty simple. Go register, buy your bids, and then bid to win. 3 ways in which you can get your bids. As I said, you can buy your bids at 50 cents a piece. Just open an account and go into the back office and purchase bids. You can win your bids at auction. There are several bid voucher packages in the auctions, and then you can bid and win. You can also get gifted bids. Participate in our referral program. Refer others to our grain auctions, and you will be gifted bids equal number to the bids purchased by your referral. It's that easy. Hope to see you there soon.